All right, awesome. I got Tommy Ledford and Justin Pullen here out of the Pioneer Coach driver fleet. They're two of my drivers that get the most compliments on how smooth of drivers they are. And I figured this would benefit, because it really is about passing on what we know to the next generation. I never started off smooth. It wasn't, I had a driver, Bobby Edwards, but although I lived on a bus, so I kind of knew what I didn't want back there, but I learned the techniques from veteran drivers, who would share the information and, hey, man, how do you do that? And learning not to run with the Jake brake and learning to let yourself, idle off for starts and that kind of stuff. So just because you two get the most compliments from tours, I wanted to pick your brain and hopefully have you guys share some of the tips and tricks you have for achieving that wax on, wax off smoothness of the drive. And some people are under the misconception that smooth is slow when it really isn't. Sometimes you can go the speed limit or four above, depending on the road conditions, and still be smooth. Advances. So that's why I wanted to kind of do this little video and then share it on my CDL Platinum platform there. So let's get this started, Tommy. First, we'll talk about how did you get in the entertainment industry? What was your CDL experience prior? And then how did you develop to where you're at now?
Well, I started with a friend who owned some charter buses. Then he bought three entertainer buses, at least them on the Hootie and the Blowfish.
Okay.
I was working for Roadway Express, and I started helping him on weekends just as giggles, just to help him out every now and then. And it got to where, got to be a every weekend thing, And I was having to take off from a regular job. But anyway, with that lease ended, I took all three buses to Chip Huffman.
Oh.
That's how I got hooked up in Nashville.
Hmm.
Chip says, help me some on weekends. Then it just snowballed.
Yeah.
I worked part time for several years for Chip, but I was trying to get my retirement done. But I was taking off. Well, he'll tell you, I was doing leave of absence to do Emmylou Harris because she liked the way I drove and like me do her tours and stuff, And there's several people like that. Well, Blake Shelton, Darryl Worley, and I was working more on buses than I was my trucks.
Right. So okay, they like the way you drive. What is your mindset when you're driving an entertainer coach?
Well, the big thing is, smooth. And back in, we was driving the old Eagles and the XL, the XL, the big ones.
Yep.
And really, the XLs rode pretty good over the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
But you still, the guy told me, he said, look, you don't drive these like a truck. You don't drive them like a seated coach because you always got somebody back there with a glass of wine or beer or they're trying to sleep. And the biggest thing, he said, don't be slamming on brakes. So I'm going to be, I look at the stoplights when I'm coming up. I act like they're going to be turning red anytime.
Yep.
I try not to run up on, sometimes it's going to happen. But most time I'm trying to be very careful about stuff like that.
Like if you see a stale green, you're going,
right.
Oh,
yeah, it's been there a while. It may be changing. And I try not to run up to beat it or nothing because then you're going to have to slam on brakes. And like when you're getting off the exits, if it says 30, I may be due 20. You know what I'm saying? It's just according how it's laid out,
Yeah.
Now, you talk about, I try to take it easy around towns, especially in town. And there's places when you get on the road, you can make your time up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you can sit there and kick it on up there. But when you're in town or in a lot of traffic, I always try to keep me 3 or 4 buses ahead of me so I don't have to come up there and slam on brakes.
Right.
Especially in traffic.
Well, you pick your spots where
right.
you see, okay, you look on the GPS, you go, this is pretty straight ahead road and it's not too bad. Do you usually ride in the left or the right, or do you just adjust?
Well, how the traffic is,
huh?
according to how the traffic is. A lot of times I'll get the left lane if it's smoother, but when you start holding up traffic, that's when you start pissing people off and they blowing horns, and you know how it is. You get the fingers a lot.
Yeah.
Especially like going into truck stops, everybody's trying to take it easy. You get flipped off and stuff, but that's just the way it is.
That's funny. Hey, Chuck.
Well, they see they don't want to flip me off too much.
No, I get it. Hey, Justin, to you now. How did you get in this industry? Like, what brought you in here? And yeah, how'd you get your start?
Man, it was a fluke thing. I just never really thought about driving entertainer coaches, and it just kind of fell into place. Hauling cattle, knew a guy that knew a guy, and thought it'd be an interesting thing to get into. Sammy Garcia with Clay Walker at the time. The guy I met hauling cattle just knew J.R. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And those two knew each other, and Clay was looking for a band bus driver at the time, and got my CDL, I had my CDLA, got my passenger and school bus to get that passenger endorsement. Got it on Wednesday. I was on a plane Friday.
Wow.
And just kind of got thrown into it.
Yeah.
And Sammy and Clay pretty much taught me what I need to know about driving a bus.
Right. How to drive smooth. I got to interject because sometimes the worst compliment that any tour manager would ever give is like, where'd you find this freaking cattle haul? Like that, it's been a thing. So like, it's real interesting that that's actually where you came from. And here you are, like one of the most complimented smooth drivers. So what did you have to unteach yourself from that other job that you started at? And what are the good points that you taught yourself how to be that smooth wax on, wax off driver?
Well, I had to relearn that you don't have to fly everywhere you go. Corners. It's the same thing like hauling cattle. You've got live cargo behind you, and any massive movement on a steering wheel, what you feel as a small movement will be a major movement behind you.
Yeah.
Remember, you got people standing up. Like I said, you got wine glasses and what have you not. A lot of these guys don't like to drink out of paper stuff. So unless you want to continuously clean up glasses and buy glasses because you broke them or cleared a counter, you've got to adapt. And
probably wouldn't last very long on the tour, though.
No, you sure wouldn't. As far as everything else, man, I use my GPS quite a bit. Not necessarily getting into places. Yeah, it's helpful, but I set mine about 2 miles out to see 2 miles ahead of me.
Okay.
Got a straight stretch of road. There's going to be a corner coming up. Glance at it from time to time. Make sure you're not sneaking up on that corner.
Yep.
That way you can feather it in and lean the bus the right way to come into that corner.
Right.
And feather back out of it to stand it back up.
You both of you, this goes to both, y'all don't drive with your engine brakes on, do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely not. I've heard some complaints of some drivers that do that.
That's the biggest thing I've noticed with a lot of these new drivers. They want to drive with that jake brake on all the time. They want to cruise control all the time.
Right.
And then once you let off that cruise, you got to hit the brakes, then you jerking it.
Yeah.
I don't never use my cruise unless I'm on a long straightaway.
Yeah. I used to use my cruise, but anytime I would come in and out of it. But when I go out of it, I usually feathered just a little bit of speed, took it off, feathered back.
Right.
Finding that technique of doing it and never use the engine. The only time I'd use an engine brake is if I was really needed it for going down the hill. And chances are I wasn't in the right gear, but like when I was actually going into it. But Yeah, it's so let's talk about that. Driving in, like Justin, you mentioned something about, I didn't think you didn't use the word carve, but you said feather into something.
Yeah. So what I was taught, when I first started is don't stay at the same speed coming into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
You want to lean that when if it's a left-hand corner and you let out of it and you start that corner, that bus is going to lean to the right.
Right.
You hit the apex of that corner, go ahead and get into it just a little bit to start standing that bus back up so they don't feel the backside of that corner.
Right. I love the way
And
you're explaining it. Yeah.
it takes a minute to figure out where the apex of corners are.
Yeah.
But once you figure it out, that's something you can't really explain. Once you figure out where that apex in any corner is,
Right.
and you stand that bus back up.
Do you find your bus has a certain personality that you're used to now and you kind of know?
Absolutely. Every bus, no matter if it's bus you're on all the time,
Mhm.
or if you're filling in for somebody. It could be the sister bus with a different VIN number that's just one number different, but it bus is going to have its own demon that you have to figure out where you're taming it at.
Right. That's a good analogy there. So we're rolling down the road. You're feathering into the apex. Tommy, like, do you do that same thing that Justin was saying? Like, pull out your GPS so you can see further ahead and kind of get enough.
Know the
Huh?
back and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same things Justin's does. I always look, and before you get into the corner, I'm already backed off of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So is that why we don't use the Jeep or the cruise control a lot, because we would have to be getting in and out of it? How do you teach a guy not to be in and off because that's the other complaint I get from some new drivers is they're on the fuel, off the fuel, on, and the people in the back are feeling this.
Well, I when I take off, I just sort of ease it. I don't hit. I've seen some of these guys just jam on it and take off.
Right.
I don't. I let the bus sort of creep off itself. Same way going into curves. You know what I'm saying? I just ease on it. I don't be.
Yeah.
And once I get straight out, I don't just floor it. I get my speed back up,
Well,
gradually.
yeah, I get
And
it.
don't jerk the bus that way. You know what I'm saying? You're not jerking them around.
Right. That's almost like that. I did a video a while back on what I used to do is the 10 Mississippi for changing lanes. So I'm not just changing lanes. I'm like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, with the blinker. And then once I get past this one, I do that so that they don't notice it. I know that takes a lot of patience because some guys, especially the newer ones, are just thinking, oh, I got an opening. And then they roll it back in and everybody's like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? So Justin, are you the same idea, I guess, with the talking about the on off the fuel pedal, because you're planning way ahead, you're very gentle with that right foot?
Absolutely. You got to be, and when I say feather and gentle, there's a difference between feathering constantly
Mm-hmm.
and just in and out of the fuel, or being steady and
Right.
smooth.
Yeah.
When you're highway and it's a straight stretch of road, you want to be steady with that fuel. You don't want to be constantly on off,
Right.
because they're going to feel it in the back, and then something else is you're probably going to be pulled off tour. As far as just being easy with everything, you want to get out of the mentality of if you're not first, you're last.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
want to get the mentality of I don't care when I get there, as long as I'm on time and safe.
Right. And I achieved a smooth ride and everyone was sleeping.
Correct. And especially coming into parking lots, man, just parking lots are the worst.
Yeah.
Truck stop lots, hotel parking lots, venue parking lots. That's the easiest place you're going to wake somebody up at.
So let's talk about that. Yeah, that's great. We've rolled down the highway. You got this nice smoothness going. Now we're pulling off the highway. you're coming into your clover leaf or whatever. Tommy mentioned, 10 miles an hour less than or whatever. I guess that depends on conditions, if it's raining or snowy or whatever, but still way slower than what the posted is. So we're getting off. Run a scenario like that, Justin.
Well, once you say you get off the interstate, there is a clover leaf. 90% of your clover leaves in the U.S. or Canada are at 25 mile an hour. 25 mile an hour is way too fast to come around a clover leaf. You want to be doing about 15, makes the bus stand straight. You don't very, very bad lean on a 25 mile an hour corner.
Mm-hmm.
And just coming up to a stop sign, you don't want to jam on the brakes.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing? Like, you see a stop sign, I guess, well, you're basically, your foot isn't even on the fuel. You're kind of like an idle.
Right.
Feathering over your brake. Is this how we're doing it?
Yes, we're feathering over the brake and applying just enough pressure to get a smooth touching of the brake.
Yeah.
And to bring you to a complete stop. And then, let off the brake and just kind of coast around that corner after the stop sign. When you make your turn left or right, you let off that brake and coast around that corner.
Right.
You don't throw the fuel to it coming out of that corner.
Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of patience is needed as a senior coach driver. And that's what we teach these new people. You have to be patient. This is about slow, smooth driving, not just like, hey, I got to get from A to B, let's go.
Right. And say you pull into a parking lot at a truck stop. Truck stops are worse. They're always rough.
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah.
There's no easy way about it. And you got to take time in them. Yeah, you're going to have Freddie freight haulers hauling around you because that's what they know to do.
Right.
And go ahead. You've got to have the mentality of, go ahead. You're going to do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Right.
Avoid as many bumps because, when you're coming into that parking lot, man, them headlights, you can see dips and bumps and everything with shadows in the parking lot. Try to avoid as much as possible. Try to pick a line that's going to be the smoothest, but still creep. And if you see a major pothole that you can't avoid, man, just kind of slow down to a dead crawl and let those wheels fall in and climb themselves out.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because there are some really bad truck stops I remember I've gone to where they got literal canyons in them. And
oh yeah, lose a whole bus in.
Huh?
You could lose a whole bus in some of them.
Yeah, but yeah, it's something totally patience. Tommy, I guess it's the same with you going into a truck stop and like let's talk about that, but let's back up a little bit. We're coming up, like, say we're fueling. I know there's some tricks on fueling depending on if you're running the bus air or the roof airs or you're running both, so that it doesn't smell like fuel. Tommy, take us through that.
Well, yeah, I've always been taught years ago, cut the bus air off, run the generator when you're fueling.
Yeah.
Because that does not suck into and I'm surprised people still do that. I thought that was a given. Don't never run your bus air when you're fueling.
The ones that are watching this are figuring this out. And do you start your generator, if you're not running the generator while you're rolling to save fuel? I used to start it up about 15, 20 minutes before I knew I was going to stop for fuel. Is that the same idea?
I do. Most time what I do is before I get off the exit, so I crank it while I'm going down the road and it don't make that jerking.
Okay.
Since I crank it, I'm still going down the road, like you say, about 5 minutes before I get off.
Yeah.
Crank the generator. And I go ahead and shut the bus air off as soon as I feel the air conditioners kick in.
Right, because it takes them a second. Yeah.
Takes them a little bit. Yeah. And then when I get stop sign, I'll cut my bus air off.
Right.
And that's the way I take care of that. You know. And then I won't, if I'm most 90% of my people want their roof aires working.
Yeah.
So I don't run a bus air both, you know.
Yeah, I've been noticing that too a lot, is because a lot of the like different clients want control of their zones.
That's 90% of my want to control it. But
If fuel
if
prices,
I do run it, when I get down the road, I go ahead and cut the bus air on.
yeah,
Once it starts cooling, then I'll cut the generator off so they don't feel it.
yeah,
Let it shake.
and that's the same with the black water as well, where you're dumping it at a Flying J or whatever. It's the same ideas. Don't,
Oh,
because what side? Because I, from what I've heard, I think, doesn't it suck in from the driver's side or passenger
the
side?
driver's side.
It's the driver's side that it's sucking up
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
That's where you fan most, you fans for your bus air.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Like we just dumped our toilets. You know, we on Dave Matthews, we bring Porta John out.
Okay, they bring a porta john out. Yeah.
We do it about every other show.
Very, very.
Sometimes, I mean, we didn't have nothing but generator. You still going to smell it a
Yeah.
little bit. You know?
Yeah.
It's sitting still like that. You know what I'm saying? When you sitting still like that, regardless if you got the bus running,
Yeah.
way our tanks are,
Mhm.
so it just seems like it comes back a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, here's another thing. Like, so we've done the fueling up. We're getting ready to go back out. We roll back. Is, I guess obviously it's the same technique of getting onto the on ramp, going like what Justin was saying, the feathering and roll up to speed on slow, not hammering it down. I know some of the rookie people will just step into it and try into traffic. But it's all about smooth. It's about rolling into that. So we're rolling down the road. Same techniques. Now it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. We're getting ready to pull off, and we're going to the venue. Justin, take me on that.
Are you getting in? You always want to drive. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing, who you're with. You always want to drive like there's a full cup of coffee sitting on your dash.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So when you're getting off, do the same thing as you did going into the truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
Be extra cautious. Do a little bit under the speed limit. You're getting ready to get off the interstate. Know in your head, keep looking, look back and forth at that GPS. Know how far you've got to that. Prepare yourself to get off at that exit. Get off that exit, do the same feathering, easy to the stop sign, easy to the red light. You get to a red light and there's traffic at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going to guarantee there's traffic somewhere because all these shows are in a major city.
Yeah.
You pull up to a red light and everybody knows a car's inch forward every time they can.
Yes. Don't
inch forward with them. Stay put because you ain't going to get any further than they are.
Right. Nice.
And
that's
great. Stop and go forward and stop again. That's a jerking motion behind you.
Excellent.
And feel that over them axles because them bags, the airbags are continuously working. And you don't want to do that. So you stay put, let that green light go. You ease off the brake and let it roll. Roll through your corner, whichever way you're going, and go on.
Yeah.
Get into a venue, kind of eyeball where you're going. There's, most of the time, sometimes the entrance to that venue is real smooth, and sometimes there's going to be a little dip, or a little raise in that little entrance.
Yeah.
Take time. Don't gas on it. Don't do nothing. Just let it roll in. Ease with the brake. Let it roll up. Let the front wheels roll up to that bump or that valley that you're going through. And once they either get to that bump, give it a little bit to go over it. Or when they get to the top side of that valley, give it a little bit to get out of that valley and just let it roll some more and let the back wheels kind of catch and ease with it that way.
Yeah.
You don't rock the bus back and forth trying to do all this other mess that people try to do.
I love what you're saying. And then the big thing here too is we have to remember the drivers may be tired by this time. This might be the back end of a 9 hour run, and you may be tired, but that fact is this is probably one of the more important things is coming into that city and making sure all those tools you have for being a smooth driver are applied, especially at the back end of getting into a venue.
Correct. That's one thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we're as sharp at hour 1 as we are at hour 9. We've got to make sure we can perform the same job from start to finish. And that doesn't just include driving. That includes getting up out of your seat, doing your trash if you need to, cleaning the front lounge,
Yep.
doing all your responsibilities that you're required to do.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I'm glad you brought that.
Performing them well and keeping the client happy, just taking care of business.
Yeah. Hey, Tommy, so I'm going to go to you now so we follow Justin. We're in at the venue. We've gone slow over the hump and stuff. One, you probably have done your homework, or you should have done your homework to know the venue you're getting into. Possibly the tour manager gave you a parking grid. Sometimes they don't, but if they don't, you got to figure that out. So we're with Tommy now. He's behind Justin, and you're going to be the first one. So let's talk about you're setting up to where you're backing into, and how do you do that? Like, how's your backing? You got passengers sleeping. It's 5:30 in the morning.
You really want to know about that before you leave going there.
Yep.
Done your homework. A lot of these venues, like me and Justin, we've been to a lot. We sort of know how the parking is, but you always want the artist bus the closest.
Right.
That's regardless. So if I got the crew, I know I'm gonna be parking over here at the next slot.
Right.
You know. If you own a multi-bus tour, you talk it out. Well, I want bus so and so here and there.
Yeah.
Leave. So when you get there, you ain't just parking and jumping around, moving the buses around 10 times. You know what I'm saying?
Good point. Yeah.
You sort of have an idea of how you're going to be parked when you get there.
Yeah. And that's all communication amongst the driver, tour manager, or i.e. the lead driver. Or if it's two buses, it might be you two just chatting with each other and say, hey, Justin, you got the band, I got the crew, so you'll probably be closest to the door, and I'm going to be over here.
But Justin will probably tell you, I'm about the same way. I've done this long enough now. I know I'm going to do just as easy when I start. When I finish, I'm going to be just as easy. Right. Because that's my habits now. You know what I'm saying?
So if you're backing up into a spot, take me through a backup. You're not going to be doing a lot of movement. You're pretty much going to set yourself up.
I want to set up like if I'm looking at, they say back into a dock or back into a slot. I'm looking at it before I pull into it. So the least turns I have to make in pulling up back and forth is the best way. I try to pull up where I don't have to back up one time.
Yeah.
Get partial, stop it. I don't want this pulling up, backing up, and straightening up. Look at it before you start, and the less turns you make to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Make sure you can swing out wide and back up. Maybe just do it on one turn. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I look for. The space is about. Sometimes these places just tell you it's tight.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, somebody's been there the day before, so you can get there.
Right.
But just look, the best way to do it was just least turns as you have to and stopping and pulling up.
Right. So if we once we back in, what's our next move on the setups?
Set your bus up, try to get it level.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Main engine's still running, and you're
get slide out, do all that stuff.
Is the main still idling while we're doing this?
Yes. Now, right here's something else. Like some artists, you shut that bus off, it wakes them up. Sometimes it's according to who it is. I'll just put it on fast idle until they get up.
Right. So basically it's boiling down. We're accommodating and serving the client. So, Mr. Client, what do you need me to do? And what do you? So Justin, we parked up. Let's so we've leveled. Now at this time when we're you and Tommy are both parked up. I guess it's what do you plug into shore or what are you doing now?
Well, let's circle back for a second to the backing into the spot. I sometimes you get into a bus or your bus gets into a habit because those things are constantly learning on what you're doing. So when you back in, I've always been taught, and that's the way I do it till today, is when you go to back into a spot, say you pull underneath somewhere at an arena or outside at an arena, you set yourself up to back up. Don't just go from drive to reverse. Hit that neutral button, let that transmission come to neutral, and then go into reverse. Because if you don't, sometimes that bus will kind of just lurch backwards. It'll have a slight lurch, and that's also going to wake your clients up. So just always get into a good practice of doing that.
That's a really good point. And so my foot's on the brake and I've pressed neutral and I wait a second and then I press reverse, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And then I never one of my big things was when I was backing up, I learned this early on. I never depressed the fuel pedal for backing. I let idle always back me up unless I was on a hill. Then it was just trying to find out that perfect little smooth, slow, because I found out early that it's better to idle into a pole than to go too fast. It's like, shit, I didn't see that damn thing.
Yeah. I don't think I told that on myself.
Just, anyway, but I learned it really quick when I first started driving. So yeah.
Oh, after that. Yeah. As far as setting up, you get there, you level out, you set up. If you're underneath at an arena, you're probably going to have shore power. Yeah. They're probably going to want you to cut your generator off as soon as possible because 90% of your arenas that are underneath parking have intakes that go into the venue that is sucking up diesel exhaust fumes.
Good point. Okay.
You really can't control the shutting down of the generator, the little rumble that it has. Mm-hmm. Yes, it may or may not wake your clients up. But hindsight's 2020. Those roof airs are going to kick in pretty quick. So it does cancel out a little bit.
Right. So for the roof airs to kick in first before we kill engine, right?
Well, yeah. Wait for all that to kick back on.
Right.
Sometimes some buses that you get don't have, if your generator's still running and you plug the shore power, your shore power is not going to override your generator until it's not in until you shut that Jenny off.
Good point.
So, I mean, it's a devil's advocate you play there.
Yep.
Whether or not you shut down generator and let the shore power take over.
Well, in a case like that, couldn't you leave the main motor running, put on the bus air, then shut off the generator and the roof airs will kick in and now shut off the main motor? I'm just throwing it out there.
You could, yeah, absolutely. But you're still, if you're parked up and set up with a generator running and the main engine running, you're still going to get that engine shutter from the generator.
Yeah, that's true too. But the people in the bunks wouldn't lose airflow because the airflow would still be coming from the main bus airflow. They'll lose the generator airflow, which was from the roof airs. They'll definitely lose that. But at least with the bus air, in this case scenario, they would still be getting a flow of air. Then once that shore power was plugged in, now I kill the generator. They feel the shutter, the generator kill. and then but they're still getting air, and then once those roof airs kick in, they get that flow. Now I can kill the bus air, or the bus
and
air.
that mentally on their end, that lets them know if they do happen to wake up when that generator shuts off, they know something didn't go wrong. Still have airflow, they still have power.
Yep.
And they notice that the roof airs come right back on.
Yeah.
So they know something didn't go wrong, and they don't have to worry about if they're going to have air today.
It might be I'm awake for 30 seconds and now I'm sleeping again.
Right.
I get it. So, all right. So we're in the venue. We're Tommy. I'm gonna run to you. You guys just hooked the shore power and stuff. Now what's happening?
Well, you main thing you do is you do your cleaning. Like Justin said, you dump your trash, wipe everything, clean your toilet, bathrooms, and all that. That's pretty much what I end up doing. Then I'll get out of everybody's way,
And that's an important point too, is staying out of everybody's way.
Well, they there do their job, then. And I just try to stay out of everyone's way. But
and I
don't leave us unattended, though. You make sure you do your cleaning, mopping, whatever you need to do.
Right.
Before you leave. You don't just jump in the van and go to the hotel. You got to take care of your stuff.
Right. Like the trash and the white,
right,
etc. And
right.
Making sure that everybody is good before you actually jump in the van and go back. So we jumped in the van. We're going back. When is it that you do your homework to see, like, I don't know, say just pretend we're in Chicago and the next venue's in Indianapolis. When do you do that homework for
that's hotel?
What?
I may do that while I'm unwinding at the hotel. As soon as I get
and Justin, we're on a tour. Would you guys talk about that too, or you?
Most definitely, probably the route we're going to run, about the parking.
Yep.
Try to communicate with whoever you're with.
Right. So you guys are all on the same page, and say Justin leaves early because he has the band, and you leave later, and let's say it's a 3-bus tour, and Tommy's with Brian Fraser, and Justin's got the band, but we know Justin's got a bus call at 10 o'clock or 11. So you guys would still talk about the routes that you were taking out, right?
We always try to run the same routes.
Yeah.
In case something happens to one of the other buses.
Perfect. So rookies, listen to this because this is good information. So Justin leaves early. He bolts, whatever, and maybe he's going straight to the hotel, and Tommy and Brian are going straight to the venue. So our leaving or departure in there, you and Brian are leaving. You're doing the same technique. You already pre-planned, so you know how you're getting out of Chicago. And then once you get on the highway, that's where you make up your time. And then you roll into Indianapolis, and we do it all over again.
Yep. And a lot of times I communicate with whoever, say, just for instance, like I had the band on my morning jacket.
Yep.
Well, I leave a couple hours before Mike and the other driver.
Right.
But I always communicate. I'd always call and say, we're going this way tonight.
Yep.
And then I was leaving, I'd tell them everything's looking good or whatever. Mike would always call
me. And since Justin left early and say he came across off of I-65, there's a big accident or something, it's a delay. Justin, you would probably call Tommy or let him know, hey, heads up, right?
Absolutely. Yep. I'd call him and let him know, hey, we're at a dead stop on I-65. Here's the way around it. I've looked at it. I can't get around it because I'm not to that exit. Yeah. But you can take I-55 and go down and come back around this way.
See, I love that kind of teamwork. I love when everyone is working cohesively to accomplish the end goal, which is taking care of the client, that TCC portion of this.
Well, you got to think, too. Maybe one of them buses break down, you got another bus that could at least stop and pick them up.
Right, because you both took the same route. It's not like everybody splitting and taking different ways to get there.
Right.
Yeah, good point. So say Justin is late and Tommy's the first one in, and there's things for parking or whatever, I guess you would let Justin know, hey, they changed up the parking. You guys are going to be parking here.
Exactly.
We're already set up, but and then Justin might go, well, I'm going to, they want to go to the hotel first, and then I got to take them back. Blah, and that's all communication. That's all basically everyone being on the same page for what's going on.
You've got to work together.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's pretend the Indy was the last show. You're dropping them off at an airport hotel after the show. Justin probably leaves early because they wanted to. Somehow I made you the band driver, Justin. So Justin has to drop him off at the airport, and then he's headed back to Nashville. And Tommy, you guys have to wait till like 1 o'clock or whatever and drop the guys off. So now we're headed back. When are you guys doing your punch list and sending that stuff into Lewis?
The entire tour.
Yeah.
Perfect answer. Yeah.
I've got already started for when I get in a month from now.
Awesome. Yeah.
If I don't write it down now, I could forget it.
Right.
So if something comes up, you need to write it down.
Absolutely. Because we've got 9 million different things going on a daily basis between what we do with drivers, what we do at the venue, and all the information we get from tour managers, lead drivers, whoever they may be.
Right.
Throw bus problems in that need to be looked at when it gets back to remember all that.
Yep.
That's one thing I strongly advise other drivers to do is keep a running punch list.
Yep.
And I don't care if your bus that you're going to be on next week
yep.
or done with that bus for the next 6 months. I don't care how small or how big or how minor you might think it is. Write it down.
Yep.
At least it can be looked at.
Yep. Good point. And then I guess you'll send Lewis an ETA, like just getting in early, and Tommy, you guys would be coming in late, and that way the shop's able to schedule things and say, hey, I'm getting ready to leave out on such and such a tour in 2 days, so you guys need to know, blah, blah, blah.
That's another thing I do, Neville. Mm-hmm. As soon as I drop a group, I'll find me a place to pull over and do a dummy check. Go ahead and pull my sheets, comforters, in case they left something. You don't know how many times I've been called, hey, could you come back for this or that? Before I get out of town, I always pull over, pull my sheets, make sure they've not left nothing in their bunks and stuff like that. So that's why I do it. I don't wait till I get to the shop.
I know when I used to fuel up just before I got into Nashville, that's when by that time I had my trash completely full.
Right.
At that last truck stop is when the bus wouldn't have anything. I mean, I'd empty the fridge into the garbage bag and literally leave it there at that truck stop. So she's coming in pretty naked with the sheets up front, and makes it easier for the cleaning staff.
Yeah, but I do the same thing.
Yeah. You too, Justin?
Yes, sir.
You're on a little different of a thing because you're a long-term lease there.
Yeah, but still I still do the same thing because, your artists are just adult children.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They're in
after them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in their snacks and they just leave them open in the cabinets, and damn good and well that those chips or almonds or whatever, after being open all week, aren't going to be any good next week.
Yeah, true.
And that's key for bugs to get in your bus.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
So I get rid of it all. Any perishables like old milk or milk that's going to go out of date, anything that gets chunked.
Awesome. So we made it back to the yard. The bus is clean. It's ready for Mandy, and we go home.
Yep.
That's right. Get ready to do it all.
Unless you're Justin and you're here, and then the minute I see him walk by the office, what are you doing? Can you run?
Running away.
Can you take a? You mind grabbing a trailer and going? Yeah, that's
how it works.
Anyways, this was perfect, guys. I'm sure we'll get responses and people say, "Can you talk about this? Can you?" We'll probably have another one, but I really appreciate you taking the time in your respective cities on your respective tours and sharing some of this information with myself and with our fellow drivers, especially the new ones that are coming on board with whatever company. But love you guys. Appreciate your time and travel safe.
Love you too, brother. Appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate it.
See you.